Sitting in VIP with a guy I barely know. He kept trying like a Leah, so I told him I would go. His pockets were small, but his chain weighed a ton. I called them Biggie Smalls, but no big pun. And then I saw these girls, they were pointing from the bar. I must have seen me pull up in my red Ferrari. I'm like, girl, don't push me cause you missed the mark. Only thing that I push is my push to start. And then I took a shot of vodka. And then I took a puff, I'm not a Rasta. What I look like, girl, I'm not her. She rolled her eyes, then I walked up like, do, 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 do. La, 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 la. Yes, I'm talking to you. If you keep on talking shit, I'ma pull out my do, 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 do. La, 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 la. And your homegirl too. If you keep on talking shit.
I witnessed the body of my Los Angeles police detective father, who was ambushed and murdered on October 31st, 1985. That night turned my life upside down. My trauma journey has been filled with fear of facing my pain. I found a way to bulldoze through those fears and found purpose in writing and speaking my truth to help others in their healing journey. If you want to know more about my journey, you can contact me through my website, www.susansnowspeaks.com.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Claudette Esterine Campbell, and I am the president and chairperson of the Dr. Sashiba Foundation. Again, thanks for being with us, those of you who are, and those of you who are watching this later on. As the intro said, I have a special guest this evening, and her name is Suzanne Snow. And Suzanne is here with me, and I wanted to play that for her to introduce herself, to save me some time in intro, so that we can spend the next hour really getting into her story as much as possible. But just for those of you who are new to the Dr. Sashiba Foundation, we are a nonprofit organization based in Canada, Edmonton, Alberta, to be exact, but we are a Canada-wide organization. We work mainly through social media by presenting information. We do various productions that we highlight certain topics. We are a woman-focused organization. This organization is by women, for women, and we talk about issues related to women. And we are pro-woman, so our conversations will not find us bashing women. And anybody who comes to our platform trying to bash women, it's not going to work. So I just wanted to put that out there. So most of our guests that we speak to on Long Bench, for example, would be women. I remember when I started reaching out to women to join me in these Saturday afternoon conversations once per month, I said I was looking for women who have been through it or is going through something, so that she can share her journey with other women, for us to know that, one, we're not alone, and two, that somebody else has been there, done that, and can hold our hands and walk us through. And that's exactly what Suzanne will do for us this evening. My guest, Suzanne, is an author. She's a daughter of LAPD Detective Thomas C. Williams, who was killed in the line of duty on October 31st, 1985. She's a successful realtor, and she lives with her hubby in Denver. Susan's book, The Other Side of the Gun, was born out of Susan's journey through the trauma she experienced with the death of her father. She wrote to heal herself and help others through her words and experience. Susan has appeared on several media outlets and public speaking forums. As the clip mentioned, she does have a website, and I'll bring it up later, Susan Snow Speaks. And that's exactly what we're going to do, speak with Susan Snow right now on our Long Bench. Hi, Susan. How are you?
Hi, Claudette. Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for saying yes. So before we get into everything, there's little things I like to do just to humanize my guests and to get to know them better, just a little bit more. So I just want to ask you, I'm going to ask you to choose 3 words that you would use to describe yourself, not sentences, not paragraphs, not a book. I know you're an author. Just 3 words. And sorry, my voice is going. My granddaughter was ill, and it seems as if she's passed back
Oh no.
a bug to me. I think I passed it to her, and then no, she's passed it back to me. Anyway, so what 3 words would you say describe the woman you have become?
Oh my goodness. Authentic. I definitely was vulnerable. And oh gosh, I would say tenacious.
Tenacious.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear that a lot from people who describe me.
Okay. So authentic kind of explains, it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah.
And vulnerable as well. So tell us, where does this tenacity come from, and how does it manifest?
I think it manifested because for a very long time I had to fight for myself. And in realizing doing that, I tend to fight for other people. I fight for my children, and in certain areas of their life. And so I feel like the tenacious part is what just keeps me driven and allows me to be a leader.
Okay. Great. So Suzanne, it says that how many children do you have?
I have 3.
Okay. Boys, girls.
I have 2 boys and a girl.
Okay. Great. And age range?
Oh gosh, you had to ask that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said I could ask just about anything.
I should have said this one. My oldest is 31. My youngest is 19.
Okay, my oldest is 30 something too, 33 or 30 something. So
Yeah.
no problem, girl.
Yeah. It's just hard to say that.
I know. I think, but in my situation, my daughter finds it harder, especially when we're walking on the street and we say, we're mom and daughter, and people say, it's not sisters,
Are you
and so I
sure?
think it's harder on her than on me.
Yeah.
Anyway. So
Right. Yes.
I know you're living in Denver right now. Is that where you grew up?
No, I actually grew up in the Southern California area. Yep.
Okay.
And in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay. So I want to get to the reason why we're here, because we don't have a very long time. But before I get there, tomorrow is Sunday. I really want to know what you're cooking for Sunday dinner. What's your favorite? What's the favorite thing for Sunday dinner?
Oh my gosh. It's been really hot here.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't been cooking too much in the house.
Okay,
so
barbecue.
Whatever we do, we'll probably do burgers on the grill tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. I love to talk about food. I love to ask about food. It's just a thing with me. Okay, so Susan, so you grew up in California, and with mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
and do you have siblings?
I do. I have a brother that's 10 years younger than me.
10 years younger than you. Okay. So your dad, and is your mom still with us?
Yes.
Okay. So your dad, he was a LAPD officer, correct?
He was a detective.
He was a detective. Okay. So how was that for you growing up, dad being a cop and leaving the house at odd hours, and tell us about that part first, growing up with a cop as a dad.
Yeah, well, there is a good side and there's a not so good side. The one thing I can say about my dad is that no matter where he was, whether it was at work or at home, he was always a very present person, very
Mhm.
present. And so we had a very, very tight relationship. Um, and I felt like I could tell my dad anything, and he never judged me. Um, but it was difficult. I mean, there were times like I went to elementary school. I was bused out of our area
Okay.
and to another area, which is North Hollywood, which is where he was based out of.
Okay.
So anytime I had a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment, he'd swing by in the NARC car
Mhm.
and pick me up. And so it would cause these, the kids at school to be like, "Oh, Susan got busted again."
That's funny.
And I'm like, "No, that's my dad." Like, that's just my dad. Yeah. So I mean, things like that were a little intimidating. Definitely as I got older and started dating and that kind of thing, dad tended to be a little bit intimidating.
Mhm.
But he, like I said, he was just a very, very present, very kind person.
Mhm.
A-
Mhm.
And what was really cool is going to his work with him on days and just seeing how much people just loved him. Like his coworkers, would joke with him, and he was always they were always silly,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I always, no matter where we went, you could see how much people just loved him just
So
because he
how
was
long was
charisma.
he in the force, up until the
Um, he was on the force for 14 years.
wow, wow, wow,
Mhm.
wow. And always at the same precinct, the same
No, he went from West Valley Division to North Hollywood Division. Um, when he became a detective, he was in North Hollywood Division.
so give us a sense of the area, the community that he was policing, because I am thinking that he was unalived in his precinct, in his beat.
No.
No, okay, okay.
No. So, if you want me to tell like a brief synopsis of what
Please
happened.
go right ahead.
So my dad was investigating a robbery ring, and the head of that robbery ring, um, he was on trial, but he was out on bail during his trial.
Okay.
And for months prior to that, this guy's mindset was if there were no witnesses, there's no case, kind of thing.
Mm,
So they planned my dad's murder for months. But the night that he died, it was actually Halloween night. That day he had testified against this guy. And then he left the court and went to pick up my little brother, who was 6 at the time.
okay.
While he was doing that, I was at home hoping and praying to go to a party. And my mom came home first. She was getting her costume off, and the phone rang. And obviously, being a teenager, I thought that it could only be for me, anyways. So I ran to the phone and I got it. It was a lady from my brother's school. And all she said was that there was a drive-by shooting and my dad was involved. So I immediately handed the phone to my mom. And as I watched her body language, I realized how bad it was.
Something
Like
was bad.
something was really wrong. And she got off the phone, turned to me and said, "We're going to the school."
Okay.
School was about, 7 minutes from my childhood home, and we didn't speak to each other all the way there. So I just sat in the chair just wondering what the heck I was going to be dealing with. And when we got to the school, the kids were let out on the backside of the school. So there's a parking lot that kind of is in the middle. So we parked there and started heading towards the back of the school. And at that point, we saw officers walking towards us, and they had tears in their eyes.
Mm.
And we kept walking, and you could see the lights blaring in the sky of all the police cars, and then there was an ambulance that was just sitting in the street. As we kind of came closer to that, we looked in our corner of our eye, and we could see my dad's truck.
Mm-hmm.
So we started running towards the truck. As we got closer, there was glass on the ground, and we rounded the corner, and we saw my dad, and he was covered up.
Mm.
And from then on, I could hear my mom screaming, and I just sat there kind of
No.
not understanding what I was seeing, but I started to really concentrate on that ambulance and wondering why they weren't helping him. It was not connecting for me.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty soon we had officers that had pulled us aside and escorted us into the school. And at that point, we went into an office. I sat down in the office, and my mom got taken aside by what I believe was detectives wanting to talk to her. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know where my brother was. I didn't know if he was hurt. None of that. So when I sat there, I was still I was reeling. I was spiraling. I didn't know what the heck was going on. I heard two ladies talking in the office, and one of them said, "Unfortunately, Mr. Williams is deceased." And when that happened, it's like my world cracked. And everything in my being wanted to run out of that room. I wanted to run and run and run, but my legs felt like
Mm-hmm.
cement. I couldn't move. And my mom came back and she said, "I'm sending you with a neighbor." Now I get that, there was a lot of chaos that night. There was a lot going on. And I know I wanted to run out of that room, but the other side of it is I needed to know I needed to have the security of being with my family unit, and I needed to be with my brother and my mother, and I didn't get that chance. Now, my brother survived. He was not hurt physically.
Can I ask you, so it was a drive-by shooting. Your dad had gone to pick up your brother from school. So your brother was in the truck with your dad when it happened.
Yeah, as they came out to the truck, my dad had put my brother into the truck in the passenger side and was walking around the truck when he saw the car coming towards him, and he
Mhm.
knew what was happening. He saw the gun, pretty sure, and he saw it, and he told my brother to duck down in the
Mm.
truck. So my brother ducked down in the truck. And so, physically he was okay, but mentally not so much. Neither one of us. And having to try to navigate all of this on my own with a poor neighbor who had known my parents forever, and she was trying to process all of this. There was so much chaos. There was just so many things all at once. And my neighborhood became something that I wouldn't wish on anyone. We had police officers up and down the street. My street used to be very quiet, and there were police officers up and down the street, the cars. We had the helicopters overhead. It was just a crazy scene.
And
And
for most of this time, you were alone with the neighbor.
I was alone with a neighbor. And at the time I was dating a guy who, we had been dating 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
and all I wanted was him. So I begged the neighbor to call him at work. He was a couple years older than me.
Mhm.
And so she did, but she didn't give him a whole lot of information. So he left work and he came. And when he came to the door, he kept saying, "Okay, grab your purse. Let's go. What hospital is he at? Where's your mom? Where's your brother?" That kind of thing. And I couldn't spit the words out. It just couldn't come out of my mouth. And finally, after he was wanting me to go with him, um, I finally just blurted it out that he was gone.
Mm. Oh my.
And I just watched this young man who was 19 at the time just crumble.
Mhm.
And both of us being young and we were kids, and neither one of us knew how to navigate any of this.
Mhm.
This was 1985. Back then, there was no talk of mental health.
Counseling,
There was no, there
grief
was
counselors,
no
nothing.
resources for kids. There was very little known about PTSD.
Mm.
So, um,
So how
it
did you and the family get through this, the initial shock, then the whole having to organize a funeral, and after? How did you get through?
well, I think the hardest part is that we never got to grieve privately.
Mm.
Um, this was a huge story in Southern California when it happened, because in the annals of LAPD, there had never been an officer assassinated, and I'll
And
use
that's
that word.
basically what it was.
Yeah. So, obviously, we had all of the, police presence, but we also had the media that camped out. So no matter what, we were not able to grieve privately. And, even at the funeral, it was just it was a lot of pomp and circumstance, and, um, it was really rough. But as far as, like, my mom and I had, prior to this happening, we had, a complicated relationship.
Okay.
And when this happened, she kinda turtled into herself
Okay.
and pushed me aside. I
Okay.
don't know how else to explain it, but, um
How did that make you feel
oh,
at that time?
from the night that she sent me with the neighbor till after that, I felt like I was alone on an island by myself.
Mm.
I didn't have any adults. I mean, even the media, it took them a couple of days to figure out he had a 17-year-old daughter.
Mm.
So, the mindset was that I was not important in this family unit.
Is
Um,
that how you felt?
that's how I felt, 100%. I didn't feel important, even though I had 17 years with the man, and
Mhm.
he was my best friend and my hero and my safety net. Um, it was a very difficult time, and I didn't understand all the mental things that were going on either. I went into a very deep depression, and as I know it now, I had suicidal ideation.
Wow.
I was anxious. I was very, very anxious because, when you have that much police presence, you're like, you just don't feel safe even
Did
though
they
you have
stay at your house for how long?
6 days. It took them 6 days to find all of the men that were involved in
So
this.
they did find them.
They did.
They did.
But for 6 days, I had bodyguards, I had police presence in my front yard, my backyard. My friends were, uh, questioned every time they came to the house. My poor boyfriend was questioned every time he came to the house because of the changing of the guard,
Mhm,
kinda
mhm,
thing.
mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, it was just it was a very surreal time for me.
Mm. I just want to pause. This is riveting, but I just want to pause and acknowledge some people who have been commenting. Desreen Thompson, you have really touched her, and she has been commenting. She offered her condolences to you and your family,
Oh,
and she feels that you know your story is very sad. So thank you, Desreen, for journeying with us. Also, our administrator here at the Daughters of Sheba Foundation, Colleen Carrera de la Mota, she says good afternoon. And our director, Clara Brown, I know our director, secretary, she's watching. So I just wanted to acknowledge those people
Yeah,
who have
absolutely.
already commented. So they found the men, and so the case never ended.
Oh no, it was
What they had hoped to accomplish never happened.
no. It you know it's he did get found guilty on the original crime.
Hmm.
However, he was charged with my dad's murder while he was incarcerated. So, but yeah, I mean, the case itself, we had multiple defendants. We had 2 trials because of it. 3 men were convicted. The man who actually took my dad's life, he got the death penalty.
Mm.
And then his right-hand man he got life imprisonment without parole. And a third man was convicted. He got 25 years to life. However, he was released in 2017.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
I actually, I had a very different reaction to it than my mom did. I had been trying to heal for so many years, but every 3 to 5 years he would come up for parole.
Mhm.
And anyone who knows these things of healing, anytime you're having to deal with that situation over and over again, it pushes you
Open.
backwards.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when I knew that he was going to be that there was a chance that he could be paroled, I had to be at peace with that.
Mhm.
And I did. I found the peace in knowing that I had no control over that. And it was whatever was going to happen was going to happen.
How
And
did
I
you
had
get to
to
that
find,
place of peace?
um, I think I wanted so badly to continue to heal.
Okay.
I wanted it to stop. I wanted to be able to move forward. And so when that happened, I I felt at peace about it. I just prayed that he didn't make the same mistakes and hurt another family,
How,
while
how
he was
long did
out.
how long did he stay in prison before being paroled?
32 years.
Oh wow, that's a long time. So
Yeah.
is he still alive? Have we tried to do
I guess.
reconciliation or anything with you guys?
No, unfortunately, he wrote a book with a buddy from prison. Um, and I read it and there was no remorse.
He wrote a book about the incident?
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously?
And there was no remorse. It was um I read it because I wanted to see if there was any remorse. I wanted to see if he was sorry. And instead it was and I know that he was probably thinking he would get redemption out of that, but it was really more about blaming the main guy that was involved
Mhm.
and not taking responsibility
Responsibility.
and making excuses is the fact that he was a young man and he made mistakes and he was caught up in the money and the women and the cars and the cash and the whatever, the glitz of it all. Because the guy who actually killed my father, that's his robbery ring and all that. He had all of those things. And this man wanted the same thing. He wanted the women and the cash and the flash. So that's what he talked about in his book.
Oh my
And
God.
I was really disappointed in that. And
How
I've
do you
always
feel about that? Sorry.
It's okay.
I've heard this conversation before, this discussion, this debate, even about people who commit heinous crimes being allowed I'm using the word loosely, but being allowed to write books and even profit from the sales of the book. How do you feel about that as someone on the other end, as a quote unquote victim or survivor of this
He's
crime?
not profiting.
Okay. Book
His
didn't
book
do well.
his book did not do well. It's
Okay.
on sale for like 99 cents, I think. I don't
Okay.
know.
There's a God.
Yeah, I even had reservations. Like I didn't pay for the book. My best
Mhm.
friend did because she thought that it would be good for me to read it. Which it was not. It was kind of painful. But yeah, I mean, I think that given the opportunity, if I would have been able to be face to face with him,
Mhm.
I would be open to that. I'd be
You would have been?
100% open to that. I don't think that will ever happen, but if it did, I would be open to sitting down with him and having a discussion. The one thing I can tell you is that many years ago, I had to find forgiveness. And I I talk about this a lot
Mhm.
because there is a lot of misunderstanding around forgiveness.
Okay.
Some people feel like when you forgive someone that you're kind of
Letting them off the hook.
letting them off the hook. And I have a different way of looking at it.
Okay.
I look at it as I'm doing this for me. And why I'm doing this for me is I'm taking my power back. I am no longer giving you the power over me by being angry and sad and hurt and all the emotions that you go through. I'm not allowing him to rule my life.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, my mom allowed that to
Oh,
happen.
wow.
And so yeah.
Just for anyone just joining us, I just want you to know that we're having a long bench chat with special guest Suzanne Snow. She's a keynote speaker and author of the book The Other Side of the Gun, a book that's available on Amazon, in which Suzanne recounts the unaliving, because we have to say that on social media, but the assassination of her father back in 1985. He was a LAPD detective, Thomas Williams, and as she told us at the top, her father was working on a case of investigating a group of of robbers, and they decided that they were going to take him out in order to get the case dismissed with no witness, no case. And that's exactly what they did. One afternoon when he was picking up her younger brother from school, they did a drive-by shooting. Thankfully, her brother was saved because her father, being a cop, told him to duck in the truck, but unfortunately, her father did not escape with his life. So, Suzanne, you said that your mother didn't recover or has not
No.
recovered. Tell us about your mom. What's going on with her?
So, that was the one thing, like as I started healing, my mentality was changing, but I was watching her road and I was watching what she was allowing to happen in her life. She kind of lost herself. And I tell people, like, I lost both parents that night
Hmm.
because I lost my father and I lost my mother because she lost her identity. Um, and I've always wanted my mom to be happy and to find love again and all of that, but she's
She
very
couldn't.
comfortable with being the widow, and
I'm a widow.
yeah, but you know what but like it's a little on the extreme side for her. She What I've realized through my healing and through everything, and it took me a very long time to figure this out, but she has a narcissistic personality.
Okay.
And so, um, in doing that,
It's about
as
her.
Yes. And as I was healing, it was like when I was doing things that were healthy, she would make it about her. So it was just not a healthy relationship, you know.
You know, I don't want to say glad. It's synchronicity that you're bringing this up, because there's a huge conversation going on our platform. Because when we posted a young lady, some people say she's ranting, but for me, she's just expressing her relationship with her mother, who she described as being transactional. And a lot of people don't get it, that
Yeah,
not
I
every
do.
mother is mother.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm glad that you're saying that, in the sense that maybe another voice to this
Yeah.
conversation will
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's so complicated, but in looking back at it and even writing my book, it really made me realize the type of relationship we were having, and it was not healthy.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was just a matter of continuing that path of being healthy myself, and realizing that I had no responsibility for her healing.
No, you don't.
She has to do it on her own, and she chooses not to. So I can't I can't feel any shame and guilt out
I
of that,
understand.
and I did for many, many, many years.
How old is she now?
She's 80.
Okay.
And so, it's a growth. It's growing, and I think more than anything, your own healing is the most important, and it allowed me to be a different mother
Okay.
to my kids.
Mhm.
Um, my kids grew up with a mother who was in fight or flight for a really long time, and they've also watched me heal. And
Hmm.
in doing that, when things come up with their mental health, they understand that mom understands.
Mhm.
And dad understands, because the boy that was with me that night
That's who
is
you
my
married?
husband.
Oh, wow.
So he's gone through this journey with me, and
Mhm.
he's gone through the trauma as well. And so, our kids grew up in an environment where they watched their parents healing, and they know that we give them a safe space to heal themselves. Um, but I don't
So,
think that would have happened if I hadn't healed myself.
so is there any kind of relationship with your mom? Meaning, does she come over for Christmas? Is with the children, the grandchildren, nothing? No.
No,
No. What about your brother?
when my book came out, she ended our relationship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
Um,
I mean, I can.
because she
Mhm.
because in telling my authentic truth, I had to tell parts of hers.
Hers.
And she could only wrap her head around that part. She
Okay.
couldn't wrap around the other parts of me. And I had a conversation with her before that book came out,
Mhm.
to sit down and be honest with her and tell her, these are the things that I talk about. These are the experiences. These are, you doing this was the ramifications. This was the collateral damage, you know, these were my experiences. And now she tells people I used a ghostwriter, and the ghostwriter made me write those
Oh
things.
my God.
So
Well, that's how she's dealing with
y-
it.
yeah, exactly. So and that's on her. That's her. I won't speak any ill will of her. She did what she was able to do as a mom.
Yeah.
And I just learned to be a different type of mom, because her mom was the same way. And I'm sure my great grandmother was the same way. And
It
so
comes through the generation until somebody breaks the cycle.
I had to break that cycle. I had to.
What about your brother? How is he doing? Or
He's
how did
doing
he
better.
fare?
He, in the beginning, he fared not so great. He made some bad choices in his life and got into some trouble, but,
Mhm. Did
both
he
my
blame himself any at all?
absolutely, he had survivor's
Survivor.
guilt.
Mhm.
Um, but he's currently on his journey. I call him my Hercules because he is just well, he's huge. He's like, 6'2" and 300 pounds. He's a big boy, but, um, he is my Hercules because he has been through a lot in his life, stackable trauma, and, he's on his journey now, and he's starting to heal now, and we started healing our relationship about 6 years ago. Um,
So your
so
relationship with him was affected? Is it because of your relationship with your mom?
no,
Oh,
no, it's just, when he was younger, and doing the things that he was doing,
okay,
I had to step away for my own mental health,
okay,
and, I didn't wanna enable his behavior.
okay,
My mom did.
okay.
And so, it was just a matter of he felt shameful and uh didn't want to pull me into that, but at the same time I had to distance myself from the behaviors. Um but 6 years ago we came together and we started talking and healing, and
That's
you
good.
know um we're very, very close now.
Aren't you
And
amazed at or I shouldn't ask you that. I shouldn't word it that way. Isn't it amazing how somebody decides that in their own interest they're going to do something heinous and not realizing the impact it has on an entire generation, their victims, you, your mother, your brother, the relationship has been damaged. Your kids, your kids weren't around when it happened, but they have had to live through it. Your husband and his family probably
yep.
supporting him. People don't realize when they commit crimes, and this is not about me, and I don't want to do your mother and make it about me, but my husband was also murdered. And so I totally get what you're going through. So it they just don't get it. That it's not
Yeah,
just the person who they're trying to take out
yeah,
for their own benefit. It's an entire generation, which leads me to the other side of what you have been hinting at, the other side of the gun, the mental health piece.
yes.
Um, let's talk about that.
Okay.
And how mental health helped you taking care of your mental health, focusing on that, and how anybody else, because as I mentioned to you before we got on air, that we do have a relationship with a group of women, and she's called the CEO of the foundation is called Married to the Badge, and her husband was murdered in the line of duty, and we've met several of those women. Um, what do you say to people who have had this experience and how important getting the mental health care is?
Well, I think the first thing that's important is that they need to understand that their healing is the most important thing. I know that I've spoke to women who feel like, they have to heal their kids first.
Yeah,
They have to help their kids first before they can help themselves, but it's actually the other way
other
around.
way
You
around.
need to take care of yourself first, and, I think a lot of that again, it goes back to um, finding the purpose within to take your power back. Now, some women do it out of anger, right? They're like, "You're not gonna get me, right? You're not gonna take my life." And they do it out of anger, which is, totally normal, by the way. But at the same time, I just feel like you can make your children your purpose
Mhm.
so that when you are having to do this healing, and healing is not an easy feat. It is not. And I tell people I don't candy
Not
coat it. The work that you have to do and being vulnerable to really, really heal is not easy. And the one thing that I feel like is really important is the fact that you really need to find a therapist. And I had to do this myself. You have to find a therapist that, one, is not only trauma informed, they need to be trauma competent. They need to know exactly the type of trauma you're dealing with, and be able to navigate you and guide you in the way that you need to be guided. There's so many different modalities out there for healing. And but the one thing that is the most important is that you feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like you can be vulnerable with that therapist,
Mm-hmm.
so that the healing can truly happen. I know a lot of people who will stick with a therapist because it's a therapist, but they don't feel like they're getting anything out of it, right? And so then they walk away and go, therapy doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I tell people, it's not that it didn't work, it's just that you haven't found your person.
Right.
And, you would need to understand that your healing is your healing. It's your, you are the most important person in that scenario. So they don't, your healing isn't their priority, right? It's your priority.
It's
You need
yours.
to make it your priority. So that's what I had to do. It took me 14 years of living in fight or flight.
I was about to ask you that. How long did it take for you to get to?
My first therapist was, I think the fact that he was not educated in trauma, he was paid for by LAPD.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I did what everybody needed me to do. So you just pushed me in a direction, and that's the direction I went, because I lived in a fog. I lived in a fog, and I was a mess. I was suicidal. I was
Mm.
depressed. I was anxious all the time. I didn't know how to deal with any of that. I didn't
Oh,
even
wow.
understand what was happening to me, right? So when I met this gentleman, met with him, um, he never once asked me how that night affected me. Never.
Are you serious?
Every single solitary week, I saw him every week for a year. And every week I would have the same thought, like, today's the day. Today's the day. He's going to help me feel better. And it never happened. He always asked about my relationship with my mother, my brother, my boyfriend, and school. That's it. And,
How long did you work with him for? If
a
you can call it
year,
work. 1 year? Oh, wow.
yes.
It's a year too long.
So a year later, he looked at me and said, Susan, you're a well-rounded young lady, and you're going to be fine for the rest of your
Oh,
life.
God.
And I don't need to see you anymore.
Quack.
So when I walked out of there, I thought, okay, I've cracked. I'm nuts. I'm crazy. Not even a professional can help me. So I'm just going to have to deal with this, all of these, mental things going on with me by myself. My mom had checked out, and and now she was starting to drink. So that was
Oh.
another complication. So it was 14 years. And by the time I really got help, it was, we were living in Colorado, and I'm now married to that boyfriend, and we
Mm-hmm.
have 2 kids, and we're living in Colorado, close to Littleton, Colorado. And I was working as a hairdresser, and April 20th of 1999, I was at work, and I took a break and went into the back room and turned on the TV, and up popped the Columbine high school shootings
Oh, my God.
coverage. And I had a visceral reaction to what I was seeing on the TV, because I was seeing the police officers, I was seeing the ambulance, I was seeing the lights, I was seeing the kids that were my same age. And I started having flashbacks, and I got super anxious. I was having a panic attack. By then, nobody knew my story. When I left California, I was like, I'm not telling anyone who I am. So my coworkers had no idea what was going on with
What
me.
was going on?
I didn't know what was going on with me. And so what I got really good at for 14 years was wearing my emotional mask. The mask of I'm
I'm
fine,
fine.
I'm strong, I'm brave. This isn't affecting me, right? So I did exactly that. I put my mask on, finished my day with my clients. Everybody around me was super upset. But I was like, nope, this isn't going to affect me. I'm fine. But the minute I walked through those doors to go home,
You broke down.
all of it came flooding back. And the suicidal ideation. Now I'm a mom, and I'm having this fight of, I don't want to feel like this anymore, but I don't want to leave my children. And this went on for 2 days. My husband, being the man he is, who knew me more than I knew myself, stopped me at the door and he said, you have two choices. You either go get help right now, or I'm putting you in a hospital. So I said, okay, I'll go get help. And I went to a physician, and he put me on antidepressants because that's what they do.
That's what they do.
And then he handed me a business card and he said, I want you to make an appointment with this woman. She's a therapist. And I laughed in his face because I said, no. 14 years ago, I went to one of these people and they didn't do anything for me. What makes you think this woman is going to do something? And he says, you don't have a choice. So I said, all right. And I made the appointment. And within the first 3 minutes of sitting down with this woman, it was different. I knew it was different. She was trauma educated, competent. She knew exactly what to do for me. And she specialized in PTSD. Now, I didn't know anything about PTSD other than I thought, that was people in the military.
Right. Everybody usually associate PTSD with the military. There's a question here for you. Clara Brown is asking you, did you wear that emotional mask as a defense mechanism so others won't pry, or as a coping mechanism?
It was a little of both.
Both, I would think.
Yeah, it was a little of both. I didn't want to go into my whole story back then. And at the same time, I thought, oh my gosh, if I do, I'm going to lose myself and I won't be able to come back. So I'm just going to put that mask on. And that's how I coped. That's how I worked it. And, but, and sitting there and having this conversation with this woman and telling her, everything that I was experiencing at 17 and then everything I was experiencing currently, she looked at me and said, everything you've been experiencing since you were 17 is normal, Susan, because you have PTSD. And I was confused. I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? I didn't go to war. And she said, no. She said, anyone who goes through any kind of trauma can experience PTSD. But what you need to know about PTSD is that it doesn't go away. You learn to manage it. And so that's what at that point, I always tell people, it's like the sky opened up and rainbows shot out, because for the first time in my life, I knew I wasn't crazy. And that somebody was going to help me heal for the first time in my life. And I had hope. And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my healing journey.
So, for anyone who's just joining us, and we're going to be closing here shortly, speaking with Susan Snow, the author of the book, The Other Side of the Gun, which tells a story or recalls recollections of her father's unaliving murder, assassination back in 1985. Her father, Thomas Williams, was an LAPD detective, and he was working on a robbery case, and the leader of the gang decided that he wanted, if he got rid of Mr. Williams, the case would go away. Well, that didn't happen, although he took Mr. Williams' life and almost the life of her brother. You mentioned that he was given the death penalty. Was he ever executed?
No, actually, we just got notified in April of 29th of this year. He was found unalived
Oh,
in his cell in death row. It's being investigated as a suicide,
okay.
but 38 years later, I don't, it's just weird. But regardless, I finally feel for the first time ever, because of the man that he was,
Mm-hmm.
um,
You
I
feel safe.
I feel safe. And that, to me, I don't care how he left this earth. Um, I just know that he's left this earth, and I I no longer have that little thing in the back of my mind.
It's interesting. So even with the counseling, even with finding this great counselor who diagnosed you with PTSD, that was still a fear that
Abs-
this man could still reach you from prison.
Absolutely.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
So I just, I don't, like I said, I took my power back from him a long time ago, but there was still that tiny little twinge of, when I'm telling my story, when I'm out there, my book is out there and I'm on stages, like, is this going to get back to him?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to cause an issue for me?
Mm-hmm.
And with him no longer being here, that's completely gone.
Gone. Gone.
So that's another part of my healing.
Oh, wow. For anyone who is interested to purchase Susan's book, The Other Side of the Gun is available on Amazon. The full title is The Other Side of the Gun, My Journey from Trauma to Resiliency. At this point, it's only $17 and is that 85 cents? This might be to Canada, shipping to Canada, because this is my Amazon account. So this might be Canadian dollars. So I don't know. What's the US price? Is that correct, or is this you?
I think it's $18.95 in the US. I
Okay,
think that's what it is.
okay,
Mhm.
yeah, because this is my account. So
Yeah.
whatever the cost, it's under $20,
Yeah.
and it's called The Other Side of the Gun: My Journey from Trauma to Resiliency. Susan, this has been wonderful. In the sense that of the learning, we have touched on so many issues. The mother-daughter relationship, the mother basically passing on, transitioning with her husband, never getting over his passing, the narcissistic tendency of mothers or parents. In your case, it's a mother. We have touched on so we have touched on mental health. We have touched on crime and violence. We have touched on your relationship with your brother. We talked about your children. I just want to wrap up with your love for your husband.
Oh, yes. He is my best friend. He really is. We have been through it. If you read my book, you'll see.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's not just my journey, it's his.
Yeah.
And I am grateful every day for him.
It's that part is an amazing story, that he was there with you tonight and he's still walking beside you. That's a romance that I can deal with. That's a romance I can deal with. Any parting words, Susan? If people go to your website, it's called susanspeaks.com. Do you do workshops online? Do you have one-on-one interaction with people? How does that work? How do you operate?
Yes, I do. I do some resiliency coaching.
Okay.
And you can reach me. I'm having people reach me either through Instagram.
Okay.
That is Susan_Snow1 is my
Okay.
Instagram. And then also through my website, you can absolutely contact me through the website. And I'm always open to talking to people. And if somebody just needs an ear, um, I'm always available in that way. Um, if you think that I'd be a good fit for, any kind of event, where, the more my message can get out of healing and hope and healing, and mental health and how important it is, the better. So I'm really trying. My biggest goal is to get in front of 10,000 people
Oh, wow.
on a
And
stage.
you will, because the story is remarkable. I thought we were just going to be talking about, your father's passing and how it impacted your life and your healing, but we have touched on so many things in this conversation that
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to you for being here with us.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure, like I mentioned to you, we do have connections with another organization, Married to the Badge, and while it's mainly African American women, a lot of them, it's the same journey. It's the same journey. It's the same experience.
We're all
Loved
human.
one. Yep. Yep.
It's a human journey. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The race doesn't matter. It doesn't
It
matter
doesn't.
which country.
Nope.
When your loved one is taken out like that,
Yep.
it's trauma. And so
Absolutely.
anybody watching us, please reach out to Suzanne via her website, susansnowspeaks.com, or you can send us here a message and we will link you with Suzanne. Any last words, Suzanne, before we go?
Just, anybody listening, if you are on this journey, if you are healing from trauma or a loss or whatever, just know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of resources now, and there's a lot of people out there that are able to help you. Just make sure that those people are trauma, that they're competent, so that they can really get you on your healing journey.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for being here this evening. And like I said to you, we repackage this and we will share it as far and wide as possible. And we will be in touch.
Sounds good.
Maybe some other time we will have a panel to talk about this issue, and we look forward to your being a part of that. Thank you, everyone.
I'd be honored.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Please do give this a like and share, because it's a very important issue. The whole matter of resiliency, the whole matter of surviving trauma and recovering from trauma, and the passing, the unaliving of a loved one unexpectedly, doing his job. I don't think there's any bigger trauma than that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for being here, and I'll be in
Thank you.
touch.
Okay.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.